Hello, and welcome to Lesson 24 of Speed Puzzling 101 Tips and Tricks, quick speed puzzling lessons in usually under 10 minutes. Today's lesson is on the basics of putting a puzzle together without looking at the box or the image. As a disclaimer, there is no single correct way to put a puzzle together. My approaches may work for some and it may not work for others. My advice is to try as many different strategies as you can and see what works best for you. So, after a bit of a break from these lessons due to an injury and life and other things in general, we are back. Today's lesson is looking at initial strategies for when you're trying to put a puzzle together and you don't have access or you just don't want to look at the box or the image that's provided. I'm doing this lesson for a few reasons. The first one is that this is a challenge that will appear at the upcoming Speed Puzzle World Series taking place in Germany in May. I've discussed this competition in a few other videos on this channel. There's a whole series about it, so if you want to know more about the Speed Puzzle World Series, please go check out that playlist. So at the World Series, all the competitors will be given a puzzle to complete in 75 minutes. The key aspect is that we do not know what the brand will be, and we will not be given the image at any point during that round. So the entire puzzle has to be assembled just by on what you can see in front of you with the pieces. And the second reason for doing this type of strategy is to see if it helps in my general puzzling. I'm going to cover more of that in part 2 of this very mini series, I guess. Today, again, is just on the basics and what to look out for in the initial stages and what you may want to consider when you are putting a puzzle together without looking at the image. I want to do a few videos first to see how it went. So I'll be including 4 examples of puzzles that I have already done without using the image. As I practice more, I will do an updated video. But the first priority for this is to just start off as normal. You want to flip all the pieces and try to sort out the edge the best that you can. And while you're flipping the pieces, you want to be gathering as much information as possible. You want to be looking pretty much at every piece you are flipping in some sort of detail. It's not purely about speed in the initial flip. It's about absorbing as much information as you can. So that flip may take you slightly longer as you digest what you are looking at. So let's go through 4 examples showing time lapse of 4 puzzles that I've already done. And I'm just going to highlight things that I learned while doing these 4 puzzles. In this first example, you can see that I'm looking for a clear top or bottom based on context clues from the flipped pieces as well as the specific edges. You want to be looking to see if you can get the orientation of the border right as early as possible. In this puzzle, I can determine that there is a sky, and the bottom of the puzzle looks somewhat obvious as well. The sides become clear as one has a tree, and I have to make the logical decision to assume that the tree is growing up. I want to prioritize getting as much of the border done in the first 10 minutes as possible, as knowing the correct orientation, as well as having some structure to work from, will be massively beneficial for the rest of the puzzle. From there, I just continue to work on the puzzle as normal, looking for potential small projects that stand out. You'll see in this first example, as it went together, some sections are much easier to find, but it's going to come together by the time you get further into the puzzle, and then at the end, it's just simply filling in the remaining spots. The second example is very similar to the first. I lucked out again with a puzzle that had a very clear sky border, so I knew what was at the top. Paying attention to the time on the clock, once I'm at 10 minutes, I move on to the rest of the puzzle. But again, with the border, using context clues from a tree on one side, I knew which way it was up for that. On the other side, what appeared to be antlers of something that was going to be in the puzzle, that let me know that was the other side edge, leaving the footprints for the bottom, obviously. For this puzzle, I still tried to work on small projects, but there was a lot of overlap. The projects were a lot smaller and a lot more random. It showed me that if I see a piece that goes with something, and I can clearly see that, place it immediately. Also, pay attention closely to when the small random projects might fit together. The quicker you can build up to a larger section, the easier it will be fitting in the rest of the pieces. In the third example, I was given a large piece puzzle to work on. The challenge here was space management. However, I still made a choice to pull the edge. What I didn't do, however, was try to put it together, as I know space will be an issue, especially with large puzzle pieces. You'll see that I'm over the boundary already in this video, so I made a mental note to focus on that next time. Right away, I noticed this puzzle was a lot of small sections, but each having some sort of words or phrases in each of them, so orientation for each section was going to be easy. Knowing where the sections went in the puzzle, not as much. So I focus on trying to get as many of the words put together as possible and build around those. Similar to the previous examples, I also made sure to really look for anything that could link the sections together. With collage style puzzles like this, without having an image to work off of, knowing where each small section goes is next to impossible on their own. So I work through the similar color sections first, and then try to see what matches up as I work through the next set of colors. I do keep glancing at my edge pile and pulling what I can, whatever I see that fits to the small sections. This helps me to know where the boundaries are, so I'm not looking to connect a small section to another, when in fact it is part of the edge. You can see it start to come together as the edge is built slowly by building on the small sections. Again, I was not great with space management in this attempt, but I still learned a lot. In the final example for this video, I am showing another large piece puzzle to compare the differences. Now, forgetting about not having an image to work from for a minute, this is also useful for large piece puzzles in general. So if you are practicing or training or trying to get better at large piece puzzles, this is a good strategy to look at. You'll notice that I pull the edge, but place them into a pile instead of lying them all flat on the table. In the previous example, I realized I was dedicating a lot of space to an edge that I wasn't working on. The edge pieces have enough distinct color on them that I can quickly scan through the pile if I'm looking for an edge piece. This saved a ton of space, and if you compare example 3 and example 4, you'll notice that I do not really cross over that middle line on the table. It also left me with much more space to work when I'm doing the small projects. Again, each section has some sort of text or aspect that lets me know the orientation, but again, as it's essentially a collage, I need to make sure to link sections as soon as possible. This also saves a ton of space, but I also need to keep checking that edge pile so I know when to stop. I also did a better job at moving sections to their corresponding spot on the table. So the top corner of the puzzle moved to the top corner of the table, bottom corner to the bottom corner, left edge to left edge, and so on. As my pieces became fewer, I could close the gaps. Once I could connect everything, the remaining pieces were just like putting a regular puzzle together. When you're down to the last 100 or so pieces, even with the box image, you probably aren't looking at it anymore anyways. No shape sort for this, as all the pieces were normal. One of the benefits I learned from this is that I can't rely on the box or the image being there. It forced me to really pay attention to the details within the puzzle. That is it for part 1 of attempting to do a puzzle without looking at the box or the image. A key takeaway is to look for the key features on the puzzle and to really focus on the overall orientation, what is at the top, what's at the bottom, and the sides. But if you're doing something with small sections or large piece puzzles, to try to get the orientation as quickly as you can, even if it's just putting sections into the spots you think that they're going to go. So if you can't figure out the orientation from the very beginning, use context clues from what you are putting together with those small sections and leave the border until later on. But you still want to start the puzzle normally. Flip all the pieces, still sort out the edge. If you have space, keep everything flat on the table. If you need more space, sacrifice a little bit of time and stack those edge pieces into a organized pile, or even just any pile really that you can easily sort through while you're doing the rest of the puzzle. Again, that is it for part 1 of how to put a puzzle together without looking at the box or the image. In part 2, which will come up maybe not next week but soon, I will discuss details, including what to do if you cannot figure out the orientation, or if there's no correct way. The puzzle can be done in any orientation, which is very possible. The benefits of not looking at the image to do a puzzle, and I'll see what else comes up as I go through more examples on my own. Leave a comment below if you've tried doing a puzzle without looking at the image, and let me know what you think about it. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with everything that's on this channel. Continuing into the puzzle season, there will be more Speed Puzzling 101 lessons. There is going to be more guest appearances on here. There's still the lead up to the Speed Puzzle World Series. I will be covering that on this channel. And soon after that's done, the focus will switch to the Canadian Nationals, as well as the Speed Puzzle World Championships that will take place in Spain in September. But for now, new lessons are back to being released on a week-by-week basis. So until then, class dismissed, and as always, happy puzzling. Bye.